Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is part 1 of our story. If you like this What If story and want to see part 2, let me know in the comments below. Before we start, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends. Also, check the description for more great content and my playlist. This story was posted by 𝐒𝐮𝐬 on Wattpad. Now let's start. No one claimed that life was simple, especially in a world filled with quirks. Long ago, a baby was born with mysterious powers, its entire body glowing brightly. Soon after, more individuals began to develop these abilities, known as quirks, which transformed society. When children reached the age of 4, they discovered whether they possessed a quirk. Unfortunately, some were quirkless and faced harassment, being told they didn't belong and should simply disappear. Among them was a boy named Izuku Midoriya, who endured more suffering than most. Every day, he faced bullying and insults, primarily because he aspired to be a hero. With quirks becoming integral to daily life, some individuals misused their powers, leading to an increase in crime that local police struggled to manage. In response, the government established a hero system to combat villains. At the pinnacle of this hero world stood 𝐒𝐬𝐬, the #1 hero, whose true identity was Toshinori Yagi. His mother, 𝐒𝐮𝐬𝐬, was also a hero. When the time came for children to discover their quirks, Izuku found himself quirkless, while his sister was fortunate enough to possess not just one but 2 remarkable abilities, super strength and enhanced telekinesis. Their parents celebrated Izumi's powers, leaving Izuku feeling neglected. From that day forward, Izuku's life was filled with pain and sorrow, as Izumi and his so-called friend Bakugo bullied him relentlessly. His parents no longer treated him as a person, focusing solely on Izumi. They excluded him from family outings, neglected to celebrate holidays, and even forgot his birthday, which coincided with his sister's. Left to fend for himself, he scavenged for food, relying on scraps and anything he could find. He worked various jobs to pay for his school supplies, but his living conditions were dire, filled with empty bottles of painkillers and remnants of his daily struggles. His parents remained oblivious, believing Izumi's claims that Izuku was simply jealous of her quirk. Despite the torment, Izuku persevered, driven by his dream of becoming a hero like his idol, 𝐒𝐬𝐬, unaware that Yagi was, in fact, 𝐒𝐬𝐬. This cycle of suffering continued for years until one day, everything changed. After a brutal encounter, Izuku lay on the ground, bruised and bloodied, unable to respond to Izumi's taunts. Bakugo approached him, cruelly suggesting that if he wanted to be a hero, he should leap from a building and hope for a quirk in his next life. They left him there, alone in the classroom. Eventually, Izuku mustered the strength to rise, though pain coursed through him. As the sun began to set, he made his way home, where he overheard his sisters speaking with their parents. Izumi expressed her shock upon learning that their father was 𝐒𝐬𝐬, and their mother was the #4 hero, Majestic. This revelation astonished Izumi, who listened intently as their father explained his quirk and offered it to her. She eagerly accepted, and they agreed to keep this from Izuku, fearing it would motivate him to pursue heroism even more dangerously. Once they left, Izuku entered the house, feeling a surge of anger at the sight of his so-called home. In a fit of rage, he retrieved a crowbar from the garage and unleashed his frustration on the living room, causing furniture to topple and glass to shatter. He tore into the couch with knives from the kitchen and moved to his parents' room, where he destroyed everything in sight, ripping apart pictures of Izumi. After a few minutes, the room was unrecognizable. Fueled by his emotions, Izuku took an axe to Izumi's room, smashing her gaming computer and television, sparks flying as he swung. He grabbed scissors and shredded her clothes, then ruined her bed. In the kitchen, he found a cake adorned with the words, "Happy Birthday, Izumi." He hurled it to the ground and stomped on it, as if it were alive. He continued his rampage, flooding the kitchen and bathroom. Once he had wreaked havoc, Izuku surveyed the destruction he had caused. He returned to his room, gathered the money he had saved from his jobs, packed a backpack with canned food, and left the house, closing the door quietly behind him. Knowing he couldn't stay, he decided to run away, unsure of where he would go but certain that anywhere was better than where he had been. With a knife in his possession for protection, He began to walk away, determined to forge a new path. Izuku continued to move forward, not stopping for anything. All his means of travel and the money he had saved were gone, and the food he had brought with him was all consumed. He barely had anything left to eat. 2 weeks passed, and Izuku was seen eating a moldy piece of bread he found in the trash. He then grabbed a plastic cup and placed it over a gutter to collect some water. After taking a sip, he heard a noise behind him and turned to see 2 people approaching. One was a middle-aged woman with dark brown hair tied in a ponytail and hazel eyes, while the other was a middle-aged man with brown hair and glasses. Izuku glanced around the alley, searching for an escape route. The woman spoke in a calm voice, assuring him that they meant no harm. For some reason, Izuku felt a sense of trust towards them. He decided to follow them to their car, and they drove him to their home. As they arrived, 𝐒𝐬 introduced himself and his wife, Nikke, asking for Izuku's name. He replied that his name was Izuku and thanked them for their hospitality. Upon entering the house, Izuku was taken aback by its size. He noticed a boy about a year older than him, accompanied by several girls. 𝐒𝐬 asked 𝐒𝐮𝐬, the older boy, to show Izuku to the bathroom so he could wash up. 𝐒𝐮𝐬 led him there, and after showing him the facilities, he left to give Izuku some privacy. However, 𝐒𝐮𝐬 soon realized he had forgotten to mention where the towels were. He returned to the bathroom just in time to see Izuku removing his shirt and breathes, revealing numerous injuries, including torn stitches. After a moment of shock, 𝐒𝐮𝐬 urged Izuku to go to the hospital. The commotion drew the attention of the others, who were equally astonished by Izuku's condition. Izuku insisted that he was fine and that all his injuries were healed, only needing to remove the stitches. His calm demeanor surprised them all. The red-haired girl gasped at the sight, and Nikke reiterated the need for medical attention. Izuku, however, expressed his reluctance, his hair falling over his eyes as he trembled. He shouted that he did not want to return to them, his voice quieter but filled with distress. 𝐒𝐮𝐬 recognized that Izuku was having a panic attack and instructed 𝐒𝐬 to fetch a paper bag. 𝐒𝐬 quickly returned with the bag, handing it to 𝐒𝐮𝐬, who encouraged Izuku to breathe. Nikke gently rubbed Izuku's back, helping him calm down. Eventually, Izuku managed to regain his composure, and a black-haired girl asked if he was feeling better. He nodded in response. 𝐒𝐮𝐬 assured Izuku that they would clean him up and remove the stitches without taking him to the hospital. The boys set to work cleaning his wounds while the women prepared food for him. Once Izuku was clean, 𝐒𝐮𝐬 handed him some shorts and led him to the living room where everyone awaited him. Nikke announced that they would remove the old stitches and have a meal together. A blonde-haired girl and a blue-haired girl carefully took out the stitches and wrapped gauze around the necessary areas. Once they finished, Izuku felt a sense of relief. As they sat down to eat, Izuku's hunger overwhelmed him, and he began to cry, worrying everyone around him. He apologized, explaining that it had been so long since he had eaten proper food. This revelation piqued their curiosity about his past. After the meal, Nikke gently urged Izuku to share his story so they could help him. Seeing their concern, he agreed to tell them everything that had happened since he left the doctor's office that fateful day. Izuku recounted the hardships he had faced, including bullying and neglect, and revealed the truth about his parents and their treatment of him. As he finished, he noticed the women around 𝐒𝐮𝐬 comforting him, and he thought he saw a glimmer of green in 𝐒𝐮𝐬's eyes. Nikke expressed her outrage at how Izuku had been treated, hugging him tightly. Surprised by the warmth of her embrace, Izuku wiped away his tears and explained that it had been so long since he had felt such comfort. Nikke hugged him again, understanding why he had been hesitant about going to the hospital. 𝐒𝐬 then suggested that Izuku live with them, and the others agreed. Izuku was taken aback by the offer and hesitated, expressing concern about being a burden. Nikke reassured him that he would not be a burden, and 𝐒𝐮𝐬 emphasized that they could not let him return to the streets in his condition. After a moment of contemplation, Izuku accepted their offer, feeling a sense of relief and gratitude as they welcomed him into their home. "Well, that settles it then. You will live here from now on," 𝐒𝐬 declared. 𝐒𝐮𝐬 then led Izuku to an empty room that was twice the size of his previous one, if he could even call it that. Izuku, in disbelief, asked if this room was really his. 𝐒𝐮𝐦𝐦𝐚 confirmed it was, encouraging him to get some rest and to let them know if he needed anything before leaving Izuku, who was still amazed by the space. Izuku climbed onto the bed, feeling an unprecedented level of comfort, and soon drifted off to sleep like a baby. The next morning, he awoke to a knock on the door. Mickey's voice came from the other side, announcing that breakfast was ready. Izuku responded, feeling as if yesterday had been a dream, and was relieved it had not been. He quickly got out of bed and joined everyone gathered at the table, feeling a sense of happiness as they shared the meal together. As time passed, Izuku began to improve significantly, eating properly and gaining strength with the encouragement of 𝐒𝐮𝐦𝐦 and the others. Half a year later, he had grown to the same height as 𝐒𝐮𝐦𝐦 and had become much more muscular. Their bonds deepened, and the Hyoudous decided to adopt Izuku, who agreed without hesitation. He also came to see the Occult Research Club as his family. Kiba and Zenobia taught him swordsmanship, while Kaneko trained him in self-defense. Asia and Irina helped him overcome his panic attacks. One day, Izuku and 𝐒𝐮𝐦𝐦 were sitting on a bench in the park. Izuku reflected on how he never thought he would escape the nightmare of his old life, but here he was, surrounded by his new family. 𝐒𝐮𝐦𝐦 smiled at his words, prompting Izuku to express his gratitude for the positive changes in his life. 𝐒𝐮𝐦𝐦 noted that Izuku had also brought joy into their lives, to which Izuku replied that he felt better than ever thanks to everyone. As the sun began to set, Izuku suggested they head home. Just then, 𝐒𝐮𝐦𝐦 turned around, noticing a girl with a striking figure running by. Izuku, acting like a protective brother, playfully smacked 𝐒𝐮𝐦𝐦 on the head, reminding him to behave. 𝐒𝐮𝐦𝐦 protested, claiming Izuku had also been looking. Izuku dismissed it, but his attention was drawn back to the girl, causing him to lose his composure momentarily. He blamed 𝐒𝐮𝐦𝐦 for influencing him, while 𝐒𝐮𝐦𝐦 insisted that Izuku enjoyed their time together. As they walked home, Izuku heard a mysterious voice telling him it was almost time. He paused, and when 𝐒𝐮𝐦𝐦 asked if he was all right, Izuku brushed it off and continued. Upon entering the house, they found it dark, which struck Izuku as odd. 𝐒𝐮𝐦𝐦 smiled mischievously and followed him into the kitchen, where the lights suddenly turned on, revealing everyone gathered to celebrate Izuku's birthday. Izuku was taken aback, but soon a smile spread across his face as he hugged everyone, overwhelmed with gratitude. Mickey urged them to eat before the food got cold, and soon they brought out a cake and lit the candles. Rias prompted Izuku to make a wish, but he declared he didn't need one because his wish had already come true. He had found a real family. The others were delighted to hear his heartfelt words. After blowing out the candles, Kiba playfully pushed Izuku's head into the cake, frosting splattering across his face, and laughter filled the room as they handed him his presents. Meanwhile, the Yagis were returning from celebrating Izumi's birthday when they noticed Nizu and other heroes arriving at their house. They parked and saw All Might transform into his heroic form, approaching Nizu, who was perched on Aizawa's shoulder. Nizu explained that a neighbor had called the police, reporting strange noises from their house, prompting them to investigate. As the heroes entered the house, they were met with chaos. Furniture was torn apart, pictures scattered on the ground, and glass shattered everywhere. A crowbar was embedded in the TV, and the water faucets had been destroyed, flooding the house. Cementos remarked that it looked like a tornado had swept through. Nizu instructed All Might to turn off the water as they ventured further inside. The destruction continued upstairs, where they found rooms in disarray. Izumi's belongings were ruined, clothes torn to shreds, and the same was true for All Might and Inko's room, where cherished photos lay scratched and damaged. Gran Torino inquired about Izuku's room, noticing only 2 rooms and a bathroom upstairs. Before they could speak, Midnight called them down the stairs, where they encountered a room with a dilapidated door and a rusty doorknob. Nizu expressed his concern, fearing the room contained something unsettling. As they attempted to open the door, the handle refused to move. Aizawa stepped back and kicked the door down, immediately regretting it as a foul odor filled the air, causing them all to recoil. They quickly exited the house to get some fresh air. After a few hours, they returned inside, only to be shocked by the sight of what should have been a bedroom, now resembling a scene from a crime drama. Scattered around were bottles of pain relievers, burn cream, bloody gauze, and used stitches. 𝐒𝐬 activated his quirk, seized All Might by the collar, and demanded to know what had happened to Izuku. All Might, visibly shaken, claimed ignorance. In a moment of frustration, 𝐒𝐬 struck him, sending him to the floor. Nizu intervened, suggesting they first assess the situation. He noticed a video camera in the corner of the house, installed by the Yagis, and decided to review the footage. While examining the video, Nizu discovered a photo in Izuku's room with a knife through it, which he took with him. They resolved to head to UA, leaving the house in disarray. All Might made calls to arrange repairs but was instructed to leave Izuku's room untouched and locked until they understood the circumstances surrounding it. Nizu set up a projector to review the footage from earlier that day. As the video played, they saw Izuku leaving his room, confirming their fears. Anger filled the room as they looked at the Yagis, who were filled with disappointment for not noticing the signs. Nizu fast-forwarded to the end of the day, where they overheard a conversation about All Might considering giving one for all to Izumi instead of Izuku. This revelation infuriated them. They then witnessed Izuku entering the house, tears streaming down his face as he collapsed to the floor, questioning why the world seemed to hate him. 𝐒𝐬 clenched his fists so tightly that his knuckles turned white, and he felt a surge of anger. The video continued, showing Izuku retrieving a crowbar from the garage and destroying items in a fit of rage. They then saw him packing a bag with canned food and pulling out a large wad of cash before leaving the house. As the video concluded, 𝐒𝐬 turned on All Might, ready to unleash his fury, but the other teachers had to restrain him. Nizu found another video and played it, capturing everyone's attention. The recording revealed Izuku's message, stating that if they were watching, he was no longer around. He shared his experiences with his so-called family, revealing how he had lived and the torment he faced daily. Izuku's words were filled with hatred as he declared he would never forgive them, and that a simple apology would not suffice. The next video showed a moment from Izuku's childhood when he asked his mother if they would still love him if he didn't have a quirk. His mother's reassuring response ended the clip, leaving a heavy silence in the room. The stillness was broken when Nizu's teacup shattered in his grip. He demanded an explanation from the Yagis, who were visibly terrified. 𝐒𝐬 yelled at them for their negligence, and Cementos used his quirk to encase 𝐒𝐬 in cement to prevent further violence. Cementos reminded everyone that acting on their anger wouldn't solve anything. Nizu focused on the task at hand, stating they needed to locate Izuku, who might still be nearby. He declared that the Yagis and others who had tormented Izuku were no longer welcome at UA and would be monitored. All Might pleaded with Nizu, acknowledging their mistakes, but Nizu firmly ordered them to leave. Inko attempted to speak, but Nizu's voice rose above hers, insisting they exit his school immediately. The Yagis complied, eager to avoid further angering Nizu. As they departed UA, the teachers struggled to calm their emotions, sitting in silence as the weight of the situation settled around them. Cementos released 𝐒𝐬 from the restraints. Present Mike expressed the need to find Izuku, and Nizu nodded in agreement as the teachers set off on their search. Nizu returned to his office, retrieved his phone, looked for a number, dialed it, and waited for a response. The voice on the other end greeted him, asking what he needed. Nizu mentioned that he needed to cash in a favor, prompting the person to inquire further about his request. Meanwhile, in the present day, Izuku had just finished working out at the gym with 𝐒𝐮𝐬 and 𝐒𝐬. 𝐒𝐮𝐬 asked if Izuku felt something good had happened after leaving a certain place. Izuku responded that it was indeed a strange feeling, attributing it to finally being free to do as he pleased. 𝐒𝐮𝐬 handed him some water, and soon after, they left the gym. 𝐒𝐮𝐬 and 𝐒𝐮𝐬 received a text from Rias, prompting them to leave, while Izuku continued his walk home, which he didn't mind. On his way back, Izuku noticed 4 guys bothering some girls. He despised such behavior and decided to step in. One girl, with pink skin and horns, firmly told the group that they were not interested. The leader of the group insisted they just wanted to hang out, claiming it would be fun. Izuku interjected, affirming that the girls had made themselves clear. The leader warned him to leave or face the consequences, but Izuku simply chuckled and prepared for a confrontation. The leader's group surrounded Izuku, but he quickly charged at the leader, delivering a punch that sent him to the ground. He then turned to face the remaining 3, delivering a powerful kick to one, causing him to fall. Another attempted to strike, but Izuku caught the punch and redirected it, causing the third lackey to hit his own teammate. Izuku swiftly kicked the last one, sending them both crashing to the ground. He then turned his attention back to the leader, who was struggling to get up. Izuku taunted the leader about his earlier threats, and as the leader attempted to retaliate, Izuku dodged and seized the opportunity to execute a decisive move. He kicked the leader, causing him to double over in pain. Following that, Izuku delivered a knee strike to the leader's face, resulting in a dramatic turn of events. The leader fell, and Izuku stood over him, addressing the remaining lackeys. He ordered them to take their leader and leave, warning them that if they crossed paths again, they would face a similar fate. One of the lackeys threatened retribution before they hurried away, frightened. Turning to the girls, Izuku asked if they were okay. Ochako introduced herself and her friends, Mina, Tsu, Momo, Jiro, and Toru, expressing their gratitude. Izuku introduced himself and reassured them that he was just glad they were safe. The girls blushed at his kindness, with Momo thanking him again. Mina expressed her wish to have used her quirk, but acknowledged it wouldn't have been very heroic. Curious, Izuku asked if they aspired to be heroes. They confirmed their plans to apply to UA, explaining they were on a trip and had gotten lost while trying to meet their parents at a hotel. Izuku offered to guide them, knowing the area well. As they walked, they engaged in light conversation, with Izuku sharing recommendations for good places to eat. They soon arrived at the hotel where the girls' parents were waiting. After expressing their thanks, Ochako asked if Izuku would mind giving them a tour since they would be in town for 2 more weeks. Izuku agreed, happy to help, and they exchanged numbers. Afterward, Izuku began his walk home and was greeted by his parents. Mickey asked how his day had been, to which Izuku replied that it went well. Mickey mentioned that dinner was almost ready, prompting Izuku to head upstairs for a shower. After changing into fresh clothes, he relaxed until 𝐒𝐮𝐬 and 𝐾𝐽 arrived. He waved at them, and they returned the gesture. 𝐒𝐮𝐬 inquired about Izuku's day, and Izuku shared the events following his gym session. 𝐒𝐮𝐬 remarked on Izuku receiving the girls' numbers, smiling as he did so. Izuku clarified that he was simply going to show them around while they were in town, nothing more. 𝐒𝐮𝐬 teased him, calling him a knight in shining armor, prompting Izuku to playfully respond. They soon finished their baths and joined the others for dinner. Night enveloped the town as Izuku prepared to head out for a jog. Kaneko inquired about his plans, and he assured her he would return in about an hour before leaving the house. Kaneko then went upstairs, joining 𝐒𝐮𝐬 and the other members of the occult club. 𝐒𝐮𝐬 expressed concern about Izuku, noting that he was no longer the same boy their parents had brought home. Kaneko shared her worries, emphasizing her protective feelings as his older brother. Rias reminded them to focus on their time together while they could. Meanwhile, Izuku jogged through the town and stopped near an old playground. He sensed the presence of the group of men he had encountered earlier. Recognizing them, he remarked on their lack of learning from their previous encounter, suggesting that perhaps a more forceful approach would get their attention. The leader of the group threatened him, and Izuku prepared himself for the confrontation, stretching his body as he noticed the men brandishing weapons. As the men charged at him, one of them suddenly cried out in pain, followed by a terrifying sound that sent chills down their spines. They turned to see a monstrous creature emerging from the shadows, its appearance striking fear into their hearts. The leader stammered in disbelief as the creature roared and lunged at them. The men attempted to flee, but the creature was too swift, overpowering them with its strength. The leader, desperate, pulled out a gun and fired at the creature, but the bullets bounced harmlessly off its tough exterior. Seizing the opportunity, Izuku decided to run, questioning why he felt compelled to save the very men who intended to harm him. He grabbed a sharp piece of rebar and, with determination, approached the creature from behind, stabbing it in the thigh. The creature howled in pain, and Izuku shouted for the men to escape. As the leader and his companions fled, Izuku watched the creature remove the rebar from its wound and turn its attention toward him. Realizing the danger, he jumped back just in time to avoid a deadly swipe. He sprinted toward the playground, but the creature pursued him relentlessly, slicing through obstacles with ease. Izuku ducked into a climbing dome, but it offered little protection as the creature continued its relentless chase. In a moment of desperation, the creature struck Izuku, sending him crashing into a plastic castle. Injured and struggling to move, he coughed, feeling the weight of his injuries. As the creature approached, Izuku contemplated his fate, reflecting on his life and the people he cared about. He felt a surge of determination, recalling the struggles he had overcome. He refused to let his story end this way. With newfound resolve, Izuku pushed through the pain and stood up to face the creature. He declared that he would not go down without a fight, charging at it with all his might. As he prepared to strike, he felt a strange power coursing through him, his right arm glowing with energy. He dodged the creature's attack and landed a powerful blow to its face, sending it crashing into the trees and then against a concrete wall. Izuku struggled to remain upright, knowing that falling would mean defeat. He glanced at his right arm, astonished to see a green gauntlet adorned with a black orb and spikes. As he marveled at this transformation, he heard the creature growling and realized it was rising again, angrier than before. Izuku braced himself, knowing he had to face it once more, even as it charged toward him. Just then, something crashed down between them, and Izuku realized it was 𝐒𝐮𝐬. 𝐒𝐮𝐬 praised Izuku for his efforts and urged him to rest while he took care of the situation. As Izuku lost consciousness and began to fall, 𝐒𝐮𝐬 caught him just in time. 𝐒𝐮𝐬 assured 𝐒𝐮𝐬 that they would look after Izuku, and 𝐒𝐮𝐬 nodded, his gaze shifting to the creature with anger. He vowed that the creature would pay for what it had done to his little brother, and his left hand began to glow, transforming into dragon-like armor. 𝐒𝐮𝐬 charged at the creature, grabbing its face and dragging it along the ground. He then hurled the creature into a tree. Suddenly, 𝐒𝐮𝐬 felt a surge of speed and found himself behind the creature, delivering a powerful kick that sent it soaring into the sky. With dragon wings sprouting from his back, 𝐒𝐮𝐬 relentlessly pursued the creature, striking it with punches and kicks, not allowing it a moment to counterattack. He seized its tail and spun it around with all his might before releasing it, causing the creature to crash to the ground. A cannon appeared on 𝐒𝐮𝐬's shoulder as he began to gather energy. He declared that it was time for the creature to meet its end and fired at it. The energy blast struck the creature, which let out a screech of pain as its form disintegrated, leaving behind only a smoking crater. 𝐒𝐮𝐬 then surveyed the area, noting the aftermath of the creature's attack. He acknowledged the cleanup ahead but prioritized checking on Izuku and hurried to the occult club. Upon arrival, 𝐒𝐮𝐬 transformed back to his regular form and entered the club, where he found Asia tending to Izuku. He inquired about Izuku's condition, and 𝐒𝐬 informed him that there were no broken bones or serious injuries. 𝐒𝐮𝐬 sighed in relief, realizing they would just have to wait for Izuku to wake up. After some time, Izuku slowly opened his eyes and sat up. He was greeted by Asia, who expressed her relief at his awakening. Izuku recalled the last thing he remembered was fighting a creature resembling a twisted version of Slender Man, and he chuckled at the thought. Asia advised him to take it easy, while 𝐒𝐮𝐬 entered the room carrying food and settled beside Izuku. 𝐒𝐮𝐬 asked how Izuku was feeling, to which Izuku replied that he was doing well but needed clarification about the creature he had fought. A man who resembled Rias and Azazel introduced himself as 𝐒𝐮𝐬, Rias's older brother, and welcomed Izuku. Azazel explained that they had come because of the green gauntlet attached to Izuku's right arm, confirming that it was not a dream. As they discussed the gauntlet, Izuku was shocked to learn that 𝐒𝐮𝐬 was a humanoid dragon and that there were other girls involved in the occult club. He realized the significance of his sacred gear, and Azazel confirmed that they had never seen anything like it before. Just then, Drake began to speak, and Izuku's sacred gear responded, revealing itself to be 𝐼𝐼𝐼, the Emperor of Calamity and Drake's younger brother. Everyone was taken aback by this revelation. Azazel explained that 𝐼𝐼𝐼 had remained hidden during and after the war, known only to a select few dragons. 𝐼𝐼𝐼 admitted that he found Izuku interesting and wanted to see what he was capable of. They discussed the need to inform other leaders about this discovery and whether Izuku posed a threat. Izuku expressed his determination to protect his brother, asserting that anyone who threatened him would face dire consequences. Izuku realized that they wanted to assess whether he could be an ally or a foe. He confidently declared his intention to become a hero, surprising everyone. He recounted how, during the fight, his body had moved on its own to protect others, reigniting his longing to pursue his dream of heroism. Those who knew him smiled, recognizing his unwavering commitment to helping others. Azazel concluded that they had their answer and prepared to leave, summoning a magic circle beneath them before they vanished. After their departure, Kaneko asked what Izuku would do next. He resolved to train harder than ever and grow accustomed to his new partner, looking at his sacred gear with determination. 𝐒𝐮𝐬 offered to help Izuku connect with the dragon within him, just as he had with Drake. Izuku expressed his gratitude, and 𝐒𝐮𝐬 reminded him that brothers are always there for each other. Rias announced that training would start the next day to prepare Izuku for UA, and he felt a surge of excitement as they left the club room and headed home. 𝐒𝐮𝐬 warned Izuku that the training would be challenging, but Izuku was determined to grow stronger to prevent any future incidents. Upon arriving home, their parents were relieved that Izuku was safe. The next day marked the beginning of Izuku's training, with Kaneko leading the session in an open field while the others observed. Kaneko declared that she would not hold back, and Izuku nodded in agreement. She activated her powers, sprouting cat ears and a tail, and launched a punch at Izuku. He managed to block it but was sent flying across the field, landing HRD on the ground. Thankfully, his sacred gear activated, preventing serious injury. Izuku thought about how powerful Kaneko's punch was, feeling a numbness in his arms. He quickly rolled away just as Kaneko aimed another punch at his previous position, reminding him to stay focused. As he dodged her increasingly powerful strikes, Izuku recalled 𝐒𝐮𝐬's words from earlier. In a flashback, he had learned about their sacred gears and their unique abilities. 𝐒𝐮𝐬 explained that his gear, Boost, could enhance strength, while the White Dragon's gear, Divide, could have an opponent's strength and absorb it. Izuku was curious about his own gear, and Siphon had mentioned not having a special power, which puzzled Izuku. Returning to the present, Izuku was on the ground, catching his breath. Kaneko asked if he was done, but he insisted he was just getting started. Seeing the determination in his eyes, Kaneko allowed him one attack. Izuku's sacred gear activated, and he rushed at Kaneko, who instinctively ducked under his strike. The force of his attack created a powerful gust of wind, causing debris to scatter and surprising everyone. Rias questioned how Siphon could have multiple abilities, and 𝐒𝐮𝐬 explained that Izuku had indeed acquired 3 towers over time, with the one he just used being Convert, which transformed damage into strength. Kaneko complimented Izuku on his impressive attack, and he apologized, feeling embarrassed. As Kaneko noticed her clothes were damaged, she quickly covered herself, prompting a blush from her. Asia provided Kaneko with a change of clothes while Izuku remained in place, still feeling awkward. Once Kaneko was dressed, it was time for Rias and Aquino to teach Izuku magic for the upcoming exam. Rias instructed him to feel the magic within himself, but Izuku struggled at first. With encouragement, he continued to practice until, at sunset, he finally sensed his magic, surrounded by tiny lights. The others applauded his achievement. Kiba suggested they wrap up for the day and continue tomorrow. As they began to leave, Izuku received a call from Ochako, who wanted him to show her and the others around the city before they had to return. He agreed, and after hanging up, he noticed his friends smiling at him. When he inquired about their smiles, 𝐒𝐮𝐬 brushed it off, leaving Izuku curious about what they were thinking. The next morning, an alarm rang, waking Izuku. He turned it off, got out of bed and dressed, ready to face the day ahead. Izuku made his way downstairs, where his mother was preparing breakfast. He greeted her with a cheerful morning, and she responded warmly, inviting him to sit down as the meal was nearly ready. Soon, the rest of the family joined for breakfast. Goro inquired about Izuku's plans for the day, to which Izuku explained that he would be showing some newcomers around town since it was their first visit. Miki reminded him to get ready, as the UA entrance exam was approaching. Izuku acknowledged her reminder while glancing at the time. He bid farewell to his parents with a hug before stepping out the door. As he walked toward the meeting spot, Izuku noticed a shortcut through an alleyway and decided to take it. He found himself in an open area where he felt undisturbed. Suddenly he turned around, sensing a presence, and was confronted by a group he recognized from a previous encounter. The leader approached him and unexpectedly bowed, catching Izuku off guard. The leader expressed gratitude for Izuku's bravery in saving not only his life but the lives of others from a dangerous creature. Izuku, unsure of how to respond, modestly brushed it off as no big deal. The leader continued, explaining that they had witnessed Izuku's strength and asked if they could follow him, revealing that they were part of a large organization that could assist him. Izuku felt overwhelmed by the unexpected request, but after a moment of contemplation he calmly declined, stating he wasn't interested in having followers. The leader insisted that it was their tradition to serve the strong, and they believed Izuku was worthy of leading them. Feeling the pressure of time, Izuku reiterated his goal of attending UA to become a hero, emphasizing that he couldn't lead them while pursuing that dream. The leader responded that they would still follow him, regardless of his aspirations. Siphon, observing the situation, thought it might be beneficial to have them as allies in the criminal underworld. Realizing they would not relent, Izuku sighed and reluctantly agreed to be their leader, setting the condition that he was preparing for the entrance exam and did not want to be disturbed. The group acknowledged his request and departed. As Izuku continued on his way, he hoped they had made the right choice. Upon arriving at the designated location, he scanned the area for his friends. He soon spotted Ochako waving at him, along with the others, and made his way over. He apologized for being late, explaining he had to handle something briefly. Mina encouraged him to show them around now that he was there, and Izuku nodded in agreement. He led them to various attractions, from an arcade to a delightful ice cream shop. They had a fantastic time, bonding and learning more about each other. During their outing, Izuku discovered that they were also headed to UA and that this would be their last day before returning home. As the sun began to set, 𝐒𝐬 expressed her enjoyment of the day, wishing it wouldn't end. Tsuyu reminded everyone of the need to prepare for the upcoming exam. Ochako thanked Izuku for everything, and he responded that he was glad they had a good time. Momo added that this wasn't goodbye, as they would see each other again at UA. Izuku wished them a safe trip back as they parted ways, feeling a blush rise to his cheeks from their friendly gestures. On his way home, still in a daze from the day's events, Izuku reflected on the surprises he had encountered. Siphon commented on the day's unexpected twists, and Izuku decided to go for a jog along the path leading to the forest. As he jogged, Siphon contemplated whether to reveal future events, ultimately deciding against it to preserve the excitement. While running, Siphon detected a familiar scent in the woods, something reminiscent of himself and his brother, and Izuku instinctively moved toward it. Continuing his jog through the woods, Izuku practiced his punches as Kaneko had advised, which helped loosen his muscles and improve his technique. After a few minutes, he paused to listen to the sounds of the night and heard an unusual noise coming from deeper in the forest. Driven by curiosity, he ventured to investigate. Soon, he found himself in an open field, where he was astonished to see a green dragon before him. The dragon towered over him and inquired about his presence. As it sniffed the air, it remarked on the strange scent of another dragon. Izuku noticed a sword embedded in the dragon's back, and the creature expressed resignation, stating that it would soon perish. Izuku, determined to help, approached the dragon and began to climb onto its back. The dragon protested, warning him that touching the blade could lead to dire consequences. Undeterred, Izuku grasped the sword with his sacred gear, feeling a surge of pain throughout his body but refusing to let go. He declared that a future hero could not turn away from someone in need, and as he held onto the blade, his sacred gear began to glow with energy. Izuku absorbed the sword, watching it vanish before his eyes. The dragon was taken aback as Izuku dismounted. He expressed relief, asking if the dragon felt better. The dragon responded with gratitude, while Izuku, breathing heavily, mentioned that he was about to pass out. He collapsed onto the ground, prompting Siphon to reassure everyone that he would be fine. The dragon remarked that he had sensed Siphon's presence. Siphon sighed, noting that Izuku often acted without thinking, and if he hadn't absorbed the blade, the outcome could have been dire. The dragon then expressed a longing to thank Izuku for saving his life, suggesting that he could become Izuku's servant, which left the dragon in shock. Time passed, and Izuku slowly regained consciousness on his couch at home. 𝐒𝐬 informed him that he was awake and that she would notify the others. Confused, Izuku asked what had happened, recalling only the woods. Siphon explained that after Izuku passed out, he had contacted Drake, who had brought him home. Just then, a girl with orange hair and horns, dressed in a maid uniform, entered the room. She greeted Izuku warmly, calling him Mr., which surprised him. He asked for clarification, and she introduced herself as Toru, the dragon he had saved. She explained that she had used transformation magic to appear this way and had sworn her loyalty to him as repayment for saving her life. Izuku was momentarily speechless until 𝐒𝐮𝐬 playfully slapped him on the back of the head, prompting a startled reaction. 𝐒𝐮𝐬 urged Izuku to focus, and Izuku turned to Toru, questioning her commitment. Toru affirmed her loyalty, and Izuku accepted it, asking her to simply call him Izuku from then on. Toru smiled, and Izuku found her expression endearing. She promised to do her best. Teaching Toru how to be a maid proved challenging. They had to correct her habits, such as attempting to clean clothes with her mouth and her peculiar insistence on offering her tail to Izuku. They also guided her on how to treat others with respect. Weeks passed, and Toru became an integral part of the family. Izuku shared stories of his past, and it took 𝐒𝐮𝐬, in his most powerful form, to prevent Toru from becoming overly excited. Months flew by as they prepared for Izuku's entrance exam at UA. On the day of the exam, 𝐒𝐮𝐬 asked if Izuku was ready, to which Izuku smiled and affirmed his readiness. They arrived at UA's entrance, where Mickey wished Izuku good luck. Filled with anticipation, Izuku looked at the school, took a step forward, and stumbled. He thought he might fall, but then found himself floating. A familiar voice apologized for using her quirk to prevent him from faceplanting on his first day. It was Ochako, and Izuku greeted her with a smile. Meanwhile, 𝐒𝐮𝐬 and the others were holding Toru, who was curious about the girl and her connection to Izuku. Ochako confirmed that the others were present as well and suggested they move quickly to avoid being late. They entered the building and took their seats. Soon, Present Mike, the pro hero, took the stage to explain the test rules. He introduced 4 different robots displayed on a screen, explaining that they would be fighting in a simulated city and that the robots were worth different points. A blue-haired boy with glasses interrupted, pointing out a discrepancy in the pamphlet regarding the number of robots. Izuku, irritated, retorted that the giant robot was worth 0 points and urged the boy to be quiet. Laughter erupted among the others at Izuku's remark. Present Mike confirmed that the 4th robot was indeed worth 0 points and instructed everyone to head to the training grounds. As they moved toward the gate, Izuku stretched and noticed Ochako's nervousness. He decided to approach her, but just then, the blue-haired boy placed a hand on his shoulder. Instinctively, Izuku grabbed the boy's arm and swung him away, surprised to see it was the same boy again. Izuku approached Ida, who was adjusting his glasses, and asked if he was all right. Ida introduced himself and mentioned he was about to stop Izuku from distracting Ochako. Frustrated, Izuku grabbed Ida by the collar, expressing his annoyance and urging Ida to focus on his own business instead of interfering. He then moved past Ida to comfort Ochako, reassuring her that she didn't need to be so anxious. Ochako responded that it was easier said than done, but Izuku encouraged her to take deep breaths and clear her mind. After following his advice, she felt much better and thanked him. Izuku wished her good luck as the gates opened, and he rushed in, prompting the other students to follow. As Izuku navigated through the simulated city, he spotted some robots and grinned, delivering a powerful punch to one, causing it to shatter. He then kicked another, sending it crashing into a 3rd robot, which exploded upon impact. Reflecting on his intense training, Izuku felt a surge of confidence. He called out for more opponents, eager to rack up points. Meanwhile, the teachers and Nizu observed the exam from their monitors. Cementos remarked on the impressive talent this year, while Midnight noted Izuku's success in destroying robots. Nizu confirmed that Izuku was still in the game, thanks to the training he had received from his friends. He then decided to escalate the challenge by pressing a red button. Back in the simulation, Izuku stood triumphantly atop a pile of defeated robots when one began to stir. He stomped down on it, sending sparks flying. Sensing the ground tremble, he turned to see the other examiners fleeing from a massive robot. Though tempted to ignore it and continue his quest for points, he heard Ochako's voice and realized she was trapped under rubble. Alarmed, he rushed to her side, while Ida, witnessing the scene, decided to help as well. Reaching Ochako, Izuku saw her leg pinned beneath debris. He assured her he would free her and focused his strength, delivering a powerful punch that shattered the rubble. Ida called out to them just as the giant robot's foot loomed above. He caught Ochako as Izuku pushed her to safety. Aizawa shouted for them to stop the giant robot, but it was too late. The foot came crashing down. Ochako cried out for Izuku as Ida fled, feeling guilty for not being fast enough to save him. The teachers watched in shock as Izuku was seemingly crushed, with Aizawa collapsing to his knees in despair. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed as the zero-pointer's foot shattered into pieces, revealing Izuku unharmed. The teachers gasped in disbelief. As the giant robot fell forward, Izuku gathered his energy, preparing for a decisive strike. He shouted out his attack, delivering a powerful punch that destroyed the upper half of the robot. An alarm sounded, signaling the end of the training. Emerging from the debris, Izuku approached Ochako and Ida, who expressed concern for his well-being. He reassured them he was fine, but Ochako admitted her leg hurt. Recovery Girl arrived to heal her injury and informed Izuku that Nizu wanted to see him. He nodded and followed her, ready to face what awaited him. As Izuku walked through the familiar halls of UA High School, his heart raced with anticipation. Approaching a meeting room, he felt a wave of unease. He opened the door and was surprised to find his family gathered inside. The warm atmosphere contrasted sharply with his apprehension. Nizu welcomed him with a smile, and as Izuku stepped further in, he noticed Aizawa standing nearby. The usually stoic teacher softened and embraced Izuku tightly, expressing his regret for not being able to help. Izuku returned the gesture, trying to provide comfort. After they separated, they took their seats at the round table in the center of the room. Nizu cleared his throat, shifting the focus back to the meeting's purpose. He asked Izuku why he wanted to see him, his eyes glinting with seriousness. Nizu assured him they would get to that but first needed to wait for the others to arrive. The anticipation in the room grew as they exchanged silent glances. After a few moments, a decisive knock echoed from the door, prompting Nizu to invite the newcomer in. As the door swung open, Izuku felt his breath catch in his throat at the sight of the individuals entering the room. His heart sank as he recognized the faces of those who had made his life unbearable, but a stark difference made his blood run cold. They were shackled in chains and wearing quirk-canceling cuffs. Among them, Izuku's gaze locked onto Inko, his mother. When she spotted him, her eyes filled with tears that threatened to spill over. She stammered, her voice trembling with emotion, expressing disbelief at seeing him. A surge of conflicting emotions rushed through Izuku. Rage bubbled up within him, and he responded coldly, acknowledging her recognition without warmth or compassion. Inko took a tentative step forward, desperation etched on her face as she reached for him. However, a guard swiftly yanked the chains, halting her movement just inches from her son. The tension in the room thickened, and Izuku sat rigidly, the weight of his past colliding with the hope of a different future. Izumi, filled with remorse, pleaded for another chance, her voice thick with regret. Izuku's grip tightened into a fist, a surge of conflict rising within him at her words. Inko added her own plea, her eyes glistening with unshed tears, hope and desperation layered in her tone. Across the room, the Hyoudous watched the unfolding scene with simmering rage. Mickey, unable to contain her anger any longer, rose from her chair with fierce determination in her eyes. She strode purposefully towards Inko and, without hesitation, struck her across the face. The sharp sound echoed in the tense atmosphere, leaving a vivid red mark on Inko's cheek as she staggered back, shock written all over her features. Mickey glared fiercely at the woman across from her, a storm of fury brewing in her eyes. She expressed her outrage, declaring that 𝐒𝐮𝐬 had no right to call herself a mother after what she had done to her son. Beside her, 𝐼𝐚𝐬 attempted to step forward, desperate to intervene, but the cold grip of the 𝐒𝐮𝐬 held him back, a constant reminder of his limitations in that moment. 𝐼𝐚𝐬 insisted that they deserved to talk to Izuku at the very least, his tone pleading yet firm. The air was thick with tension as 𝐼𝐚𝐬 chimed in, his expression a mixture of anger and disappointment. He pointed out that none of them deserved to be near Izuku after everything they had put him through, emphasizing the pain in his voice that resonated deeply with those present. Meanwhile, Toru struggled against the grip of her friends, her frustration evident as she fought to break free and unleash her own fury. However, Nizu interjected, his authoritative voice rising above the commotion, declaring that they were there because Izuku would determine what to do with them. His steady gaze reminded everyone that the final decision was not in their hands. The atmosphere grew charged as everyone awaited Izuku's response, the weight of his experiences hanging heavily in the air. As everyone turned their attention to Izuku, the tension was palpable. 𝐒𝐮𝐬, her eyes brimming with tears, stepped forward, trembling as she spoke. She expressed deep sorrow for what they had done and pleaded for another chance, her sobs breaking through her words. But Izuku's expression remained cold and resolute as he responded, his voice laced with anger and hurt. He pointed out that they did not get to cry now, not after everything they had put him through. He recounted how he had been beaten and humiliated every single day while they remained oblivious. He had to grow up fast, at age 5, no less, fighting for everything he wanted, working harder than anyone should have to at such a young age. As he spoke, his emotions swelled, memories flooding back. He recalled watching them lavish love and attention on Izumi, giving her everything she desired, all because of her so-called perfect quirk. It had always been about her while he was left in the shadows, struggling to find his place. His voice cracked under the weight of his feelings, revealing the deep scars formed over the years from neglect and favoritism. He confronted them about asking for a second chance, expressing that they had all that time to fix things, yet they never did. He declared them a sorry excuse for human beings. As he spoke, a fierce glow emanated from his emerald-green eyes, signaling his growing power, and his sacred gear materialized on his hand, an impressive manifestation of his strength. Reacting quickly, 𝐼𝐚𝐬 and Toru sprang into action, propelling themselves toward Izuku. 𝐼𝐚𝐬 expertly maneuvered behind him and locked him in a hold, his arms taut around Izuku's neck. Toru positioned herself to block any escape routes, her fierce expression making it clear that she wouldn't let Izuku move an inch. 𝐼𝐚𝐬 called out urgently for Nizu, demanding that they be removed from the situation, warning that if they did not act, the school and everything within a mile would be reduced to rubble. His heart raced as he glanced around, acutely aware of the looming threat of devastation. 𝐒𝐮𝐬 anxiously watched the scene unfold, her worry etched on her face as she and the others were ushered away from the storm. The tension in the air was almost palpable, heavy with the spectators' anxiety. 𝐼𝐚𝐬 tightened his grip, determination etched into his features, and expressed his intent to put Izuku to rest for now. Izuku, straining against the hold, felt his strength waning as the pressure increased. Soon, exhaustion overtook him, and he slumped in the chair, surrendering to the dark void that enveloped him, unaware of the chaos that had just erupted. Present Mike, observing the events unfold, expressed his concern as he questioned what had just happened. The tension in the air was palpable, and he quickly turned to where 𝐼𝐚𝐬 stood, his expression a mixture of relief and urgency. 𝐼𝐚𝐬 explained that Izuku had been on the verge of unleashing his full power, but he had managed to stop him just in time. He noted that if he hadn't intervened, the situation could have spiraled out of control, leading to disastrous consequences for everyone involved. Rhea stepped forward, glancing toward Nizu with a serious demeanor. She suggested that it would be best to take their leave for the day, emphasizing the need to give Izuku space to process everything before diving deeper into the situation. Nizu nodded thoughtfully, considering the implications, and agreed that they should reconvene later once Izuku had calmed down, allowing for a more productive discussion. He then watched as 𝐼𝐚𝐬 gently lifted Izuku, whose expression was still clouded with turmoil, and guided him out of the school. Aizawa, ever watchful, looked at Nizu with a determined gaze. Nizu expressed his longing for Izuku to be placed in Aizawa's class, emphasizing the importance of closely monitoring him during this crucial period. His protective instincts heightened as he recognized the potential for chaos. Nizu agreed, affirming that Izuku would be in Aizawa's care. However, he noted the necessity of developing a strategy to help calm Izuku should he ever lose control to his anger in the future. The group was left to ponder the challenges ahead, united in their mission to assist their friend and student in navigating his internal struggles. As time passed, Izuku gradually opened his eyes, the sunlight filtering through a nearby window and casting a warm glow across the room. He found himself resting on a plush, deep green couch, the soft fabric comforting against his back. Confusion washed over him as he took in the unfamiliar surroundings. He croaked out a question, feeling a hint of panic rising within him. 𝐒𝐮𝐬 shifted closer, his expression a blend of concern and relief. He informed Izuku that he had almost lost control but reassured him that they had been there to help, preventing anyone from getting hurt. The weight of 𝐒𝐮𝐬's words lingered in the air as Izuku processed the situation. He expressed his gratitude for their intervention, pushing himself into a sitting position, his heart racing with uncertainty. He then asked where they were. 𝐒𝐮𝐬 explained that the place was meant to be a surprise, a safe space for them to stay in case Izuku needed support. He mentioned that the others had gone out to get some food and would return shortly. 𝐒𝐮𝐬 paused, gauging Izuku's reaction and inquired about his thoughts after seeing the others. Izuku's brow furrowed as he reflected on his past, memories swirling chaotically in his mind. He admitted that he needed time to think, his voice barely above a whisper and tinged with sorrow. 𝐒𝐮𝐬 placed a reassuring hand on Izuku's shoulder, offering comfort and support. He reminded Izuku that no matter what happened, he was not alone in this journey, and his warm smile provided a sense of solace. Just then, the door creaked open, and Nikke and Toru entered, their faces lighting up upon seeing Izuku awake. Without hesitation, they rushed over and enveloped him in a tight embrace, expressing their relief that he was okay. Izuku reassured them that he was fine, returning their hug and feeling the warmth of their support. The atmosphere shifted to one of camaraderie and understanding as they settled back onto the couch. Soon after, plates filled with food were placed on the table, and they began to eat together. Laughter filled the air, but the conversation inevitably turned serious as they discussed how Izuku would navigate the complexities of his past. As they shared their thoughts over the meal, Izuku felt more grounded, comforted by the presence of friends who stood by him through the storm. As the day progressed, Izuku and the others spent time talking, eating, and preparing for the challenges that lay ahead. Eventually, Izuku found himself standing in front of the UA building, where Nizu and the teachers awaited him. He sighed and approached them. Nizu greeted him warmly, inquiring about his well-being. Izuku apologized for the previous day's events, but Nizu reassured him that there was no need for apologies, taking responsibility for the situation. Izuku mentioned that he had considered an appropriate consequence for the events that transpired, promising to share it later. Nizu expressed his anticipation for that conversation and informed Izuku that Aizawa would be his teacher, encouraging him to enjoy his time at UA. Izuku agreed and then asked Nizu if he could bring Toru along with him. Nizu saw no issue with that, as long as she did not cause any trouble. Izuku assured him that he would ensure she behaved. With that, Midnight escorted Izuku to class while Aizawa attended to other matters. As Midnight announced that Aizawa would be arriving shortly, she winked at Izuku before walking away. Izuku watched her for a moment, thoughts racing through his mind about her confidence. He quickly shook off the distraction and entered the classroom, where his classmates were already gathered. Ochako approached him with a smile, expressing her excitement about being in the same class. The others greeted him warmly as well. Just then, a familiar voice called out to him. Turning around, Izuku recognized the blue-haired boy with glasses. He introduced himself as Tenya Ida and apologized for his earlier actions during the entrance exam, expressing admiration for Izuku's ability to understand the 0-pointers. Izuku reassured him that it was all right, explaining that he had saved Ochako because she needed help, emphasizing that a true hero would never ignore someone in distress. Ida acknowledged Izuku's heroism, and soon after, the rest of the students introduced themselves. 𝐒𝐬𝐬 entered the classroom, instructing everyone to settle down and take their seats. He introduced himself as their teacher for the next 3 years and handed out gym clothes, directing the students to change. In the changing room, Kirishima noticed the scars on Izuku's body and asked what had happened. Izuku casually mentioned that they were from training. 𝐒𝐼𝐬 inquired about the nature of his training, to which Izuku replied that it involved risks that could lead to serious injuries. Mineta, attempting to be mischievous, pointed out a hole that led to the girls' changing area. Before he could get too close, Izuku swiftly grabbed him and pushed him against the lockers, firmly reminding him that women deserve respect and should not be objectified. He highlighted 𝐒𝐻𝐬's unique qualities, making it clear that he would not tolerate disrespectful behavior. Mineta, frightened, quickly agreed to be more respectful. Izuku then encouraged everyone to hurry outside, not wanting to keep 𝐒𝐬𝐬 waiting. Once outside, he noticed 𝐒𝐻𝐬 blushing as she looked at him, realizing she had overheard his earlier confrontation with Mineta. He felt a bit embarrassed, but Mina gave him an approving thumbs up. 𝐒𝐬𝐬 explained that they would assess everyone's abilities. He tossed a ball to Izuku, instructing him to throw it with all his strength while staying within the designated area. Izuku nodded, his right arm transforming and glowing as he prepared to throw. With a powerful motion, he launched the ball, breaking the sound barrier and creating a loud boom. Izuku turned to 𝐒𝐬𝐬, asking how that was. 𝐒𝐬𝐬 smiled, revealing that the device in his hand showed an impressive reading, leaving everyone astonished by Izuku's strength. 𝐒𝐬𝐬 then set the expectation for the class. They were to give their all, with the last person to finish facing expulsion. As the class began, everyone pushed themselves to their limits. Eventually, they all collapsed on the ground, trying to catch their breath. Mina asked Izuku how he wasn't tired, to which he replied that he had endured worse challenges. 𝐒𝐬𝐬 announced the results, declaring Izuku the top performer while Mineta came in last. He had considered expelling Mineta but decided to keep him around under Izuku's watchful eye. Momo expressed her surprise at 𝐒𝐬𝐬's seriousness about expulsion, realizing he never joked about such matters. Izuku encouraged everyone to head back to change into their school uniforms, ensuring Mineta changed in a corner to avoid any further incidents. As the school day came to an end, Izuku returned home to a warm welcome from his family. Miki asked him how his first day went, and he shared that it had gone well. He mentioned that Nizu had approved for Toru to attend school, which excited her. However, Izuku suggested they wait until they could find a suitable arrangement for her, considering she wouldn't be a student yet. Issei agreed, noting it would be best for Toru to stay home for now. Izuku comforted her with a gentle pat on the head. Later, during combat training, Izuku and Class 1A headed to the unforeseen simulation joint, where they would practice disaster rescue scenarios. While everyone else wore their hero costumes, Izuku realized he had forgotten to design one and was stuck in his PE clothes. Denki teased him about it, but Izuku saw it as an opportunity to come up with a unique design. 𝐒𝐬𝐬 observed Izuku's enthusiasm, a small smile forming on his face. Soon, they arrived, disembarked from the bus, and made their way inside, where they were greeted by the hero 13. She explained how to use quirks correctly and emphasized the importance of considering when and where to use them. As 13 continued her explanation, a warp hole opened in the middle of USJ. Denki expressed his surprise, thinking they had fake villains, but Izuku quickly corrected him, realizing the danger was real as the last villain emerged from the warp hole. 𝐒𝐻𝐬, a villain with the ability to manipulate space, questioned why All Might was absent, while Shigaraki suggested that perhaps All Might would show up if they harmed his students. 𝐒𝐬𝐬 instructed 13 to protect the students and donned his goggles. Izuku, concerned, asked if 𝐒𝐬𝐬 intended to confront the villains alone. 𝐒𝐬𝐬 reminded Izuku that he couldn't rely solely on one tactic as he charged at the villains, taking down a few before a misty villain appeared before them. 𝐒𝐻𝐬 introduced the League of Villains and announced their intentions regarding All Might. 13 activated her quirk, but 𝐒𝐻𝐬 countered, causing her to turn her attack against herself. Izuku urged Ida to return to UA for help, and Ida nodded, rushing toward the exit. 𝐒𝐻𝐬 attempted to stop him, but it was too late. Ida had escaped. Kirishima then launched himself at 𝐒𝐬, but the villain used his powers to separate everyone across USJ. Izuku found himself submerged in water and opened his eyes to see a shark-like villain approaching, mouth open wide. He instinctively pulled back his left arm and, as the villain got close, delivered a powerful punch that shattered its teeth. Suddenly, he felt himself being pulled up and saw 𝐒𝐬 wrapping her tongue around his waist, bringing them both to the deck of a ship. Grateful for her assistance, Izuku acknowledged 𝐒𝐬, who was also joined by Mineta. Surrounded by villains in the water, Mineta panicked, questioning their situation. In response, Izuku delivered a firm slap to Mineta, asserting that this was the reality heroes faced daily. He urged Mineta to listen closely as he devised a plan. As they prepared, Izuku asked if they were ready, and 𝐒𝐬 confirmed their readiness. They both jumped off the ship as Izuku summoned his sacred gear, charging up before striking the water. The force of his punch created a whirlpool, pulling the villains in as 𝐒𝐬 assisted him. Mineta threw his ball into the water, further ensnaring the villains. Soon, the villains found themselves entangled. Izuku suggested they return to the others, and they made their way back to the entrance of USJ. Upon arrival, Izuku's anger surged as he spotted his uncle on the ground, restrained by a monstrous creature. Shigaraki taunted the situation, indicating that some of the students had survived but suggesting that would soon change. He lunged at 𝐒𝐬, but nothing happened as Aizawa activated his quirk to counter the creature's grip. Izuku intervened, demanding Shigaraki to keep his hands off. He attempted to kick Shigaraki, but the creature blocked the attack. Creating distance, Izuku instructed 𝐒𝐬 and Mineta to get Aizawa to safety while he held off the villains. Mineta protested, but Izuku insisted they leave. 𝐒𝐬 used her tongue to carry Aizawa away with Mineta following closely behind. Shigaraki laughed, confident that Nomu, designed to defeat All Might, would easily overpower Izuku. As Nomu charged at him, Izuku prepared to counter, but the creature blocked his punches, demonstrating its resilience. Realizing he needed to take the fight more seriously, Izuku activated his sacred gear. Shigaraki ordered Nomu to finish Izuku off as the creature roared and lunged at him. The two clashed, their fists colliding with tremendous force, sending shockwaves through the area. Izuku continued to trade blows with Nomu, but the creature retaliated, striking Izuku and pushing him back. However, Izuku stood firm, refusing to back down. He swung his right arm, activating his blade, and struck Nomu in the eye, causing it to screech in pain. The creature retaliated, kicking Izuku away, and he found himself flying toward the ground. Shigaraki acknowledged Izuku's perseverance but claimed it was futile. As Izuku got back on his feet, he noticed Nomu's eye had regenerated. Shigaraki mocked him, but Izuku remained unfazed, stretching as he prepared for the next phase of the battle. He revealed that he had been holding back and removed weights from his arms and waist. The weights hit the ground with a thud, and Izuku's body radiated a green aura as he charged at Nomu, landing multiple hits. Izuku noted that with each attack, Nomu's skin expanded but returned to normal, indicating it absorbed his punches and had a healing ability. However, he pointed out a flaw in the creature's design. As Shigaraki watched in disbelief, Nomu was pushed back, prompting him to command the creature to finish Izuku. Izuku grinned as he pointed out the flaw in the so-called perfect weapon, noting that while it could absorb his attacks, it had its limits. He declared that he was different. Every time he was hit, he grew stronger. With determination, he activated his power, and his right arm glowed as he delivered a powerful punch to Nomu's stomach. The force of the blow created a burning sensation and cracked the ground beneath him. Nomu was propelled into the air, crashing through steel beams and soaring higher into the sky. Shigaraki, filled with frustration, exclaimed that it was impossible and accused Izuku of cheating. Just then, 𝐒𝐬 appeared beside him, reminding Shigaraki that Izuku had exhausted himself in the fight. They still had a chance to win. Shigaraki glanced at Izuku, who was breathing heavily and barely standing, and reluctantly agreed with 𝐒𝐬. However, before he could attack, a summoning circle formed beneath Izuku, and Issei, along with the others, appeared. Toru, filled with anger, warned Shigaraki that if he took another step, he would face serious consequences. Fear gripped Shigaraki and 𝐒𝐿𝐬, and 𝐒𝐮𝐬 reiterated that if they wanted to reach Izuku, they would have to go through them first. Shigaraki, seething with anger, vowed that they would pay for this encounter, but 𝐒𝐿𝐬 quickly teleported them away just as Ida arrived with the teachers to help clean up the remaining villains. 𝐒𝐮𝐬 praised Izuku for his efforts, and Izuku gave him a thumbs up before collapsing onto his back. 𝐒𝐬 immediately began healing the injured, and soon everything was settled with the villains captured. Nizu remarked on the day's events, acknowledging the unusual attack by the League of Villains on students. Present Mike echoed the concern, but Nizu insisted that their priority was the students' safety. As the students were sent home, Toru stayed close to Izuku, ensuring he was all right despite his reassurances that everything was fine. Back at home, Toru remained vigilant, not allowing Izuku out of her sight. 𝐒𝐮𝐬 and the others observed the scene, with 𝐒𝐮𝐬 commenting on Toru's protective nature. Izuku insisted he was fine, but 𝐒𝐮𝐬 noted that he was impressed Izuku had managed to defeat Nomu. Izuku attributed his success to his rigorous training, prompting 𝐒𝐮𝐬 to suggest they should step up his training even more. Izuku, feeling the pressure, expressed concern about balancing school and homework with additional training. Rias reassured him that while the training would be challenging, they would support him every step of the way, causing Izuku to pale at the thought. Meanwhile, Shigaraki was frustrated, yelling about Izuku's victory over Nomu. A television turned on, and a voice reassured him that not everything goes according to plan and there would be another opportunity. Shigaraki calmed down and confirmed his understanding, then reported everything that had transpired at USJ. The next day, Izuku dressed and headed to UA, noticing Toru following closely behind. He asked her why she was still with him, and she explained it was to ensure his safety. Izuku reminded her that he was okay and that she couldn't accompany him to school. Toru insisted that if anything happened while she wasn't there, she wouldn't forgive herself. Izuku expressed his gratitude for her concern but reassured her that he would be fine and suggested she could teleport to him if needed. Toru reluctantly agreed and returned home as Izuku continued to school. Upon arriving in class, Izuku was warmly greeted by his classmates. Kirishima praised his manliness, while others asked questions. Tsuyu thanked him for dealing with Mineta, who had faced consequences for his actions. Ojiro wondered who their teacher would be since Aizawa had been injured by Nomu. Just then, the door opened to reveal Aizawa, looking as composed as ever. Denki asked how he was okay after being beaten by Nomu, to which Aizawa explained that Asia had healed his injuries. He then informed the class that their fight was not over yet, it was time to prepare for the upcoming sports festival. Mina expressed concern, questioning if it was wise to proceed given recent events. Aizawa acknowledged their worries but emphasized the importance of showing the villains that they would not be intimidated. He announced that they would have 3 days to prepare, and class resumed as usual. When the lunch bell rang, the students opened the door only to find a group blocking their way. Aizawa observed the frightened students and urged them to move aside. As they quickly dispersed, he commented that if they wanted to be heroes, they needed to face reality. The class then proceeded to lunch, with Kirishima expressing relief that Aizawa had been there to let them eat. Ochako shared her thoughts on the students who had blocked their way, while Izuku dismissed them as ignorant. As they chatted, Izuku noticed someone trying to hit him with a tray. Reacting quickly, he turned and pushed the person away, causing them to stumble and drop their food all over themselves. The person confronted Izuku, questioning his actions. Izuku, feeling provoked, replied that he could say the same to him. He expressed his frustration about nearly being hit and warned that if the reason behind it was what he suspected, he would retaliate. The person, with a smirk, made a comment about Izuku's ego from the USJ incident. Before he could continue, Izuku swiftly struck him in the stomach, seized his head, and delivered a headbutt that resulted in a broken nose. He then executed a roundhouse kick, knocking the individual out cold. Izuku surveyed the other students and declared that anyone else who dared to speak about USJ would face similar consequences. He emphasized that they had not experienced the challenges they had faced, reminding them that being a hero was not just fun and games. He warned that if anyone thought like that individual, they should leave the school, as the world did not need more incompetent heroes. With that, he returned to his meal, and his classmates followed suit as a girl with orange hair dragged the unconscious person away. Soon, the bell rang, signaling the end of lunch, and everyone returned to class. As they settled in, the speakers crackled to life, and 𝐒𝐻𝐬's voice requested Izuku to come to his office. With a sigh, Izuku informed his friends that he would be back shortly and made his way to 𝐒𝐻𝐬's office. Upon entering, he found the annoying blonde-haired student, Monoma, alongside the BLD hero, Bloodflad. 𝐒𝐻𝐬 invited Izuku to take a seat and indicated that he wanted to discuss the recent incident. Izuku assumed he knew the reason for his summons and explained that he had defended himself during lunch when Monoma attempted to strike him with a tray. He noted that many, like Monoma, assumed they were arrogant simply because they had faced a villain. 𝐒𝐻𝐬 turned to Monoma, asking if Izuku's account was accurate and warning him of the consequences of lying. Monoma reluctantly confirmed Izuku's version of events. 𝐒𝐻𝐬 then addressed Bloodflad, questioning his teaching methods, which made Bloodflad visibly anxious. Before he could respond, 𝐒𝐻𝐬 raised his paw, indicating he had heard enough. He informed Izuku that he could return to class and mentioned that he had 3 days off due to urgent business, as his brother had indicated. Izuku left the office, relieved that he was not in Monoma's position, and wondered what urgent matter 𝐒𝐮𝐬 had been referring to. The day continued as usual, and soon it was time to head home. Aizawa informed Izuku that he had a week off and handed him the assignments for the 3 days, reminding him to submit them upon his return. Izuku accepted the work with a hint of frustration, wishing for a break. After leaving school and bidding farewell to his friends, he arrived home and greeted Toru, who enthusiastically tackled him to the ground. She welcomed him back, and Izuku felt a momentary distraction but quickly shook it off as he got back on his feet. He inquired if 𝐒𝐮𝐬 was home, to which Toru replied that he had gone out with others and would return soon. Izuku decided to take a bath and headed to his room for some fresh clothes before entering the bathroom. While Izuku relaxed in the bath, Toru was busy preparing lunch. She tasted her cooking and confirmed it was good. Suddenly, she wore a mischievous expression and headed toward the bathroom. Kaneko surprised her, asking where she thought she was going. Toru jumped, startled, and turned to see 𝐒𝐮𝐬 and the others had just arrived. 𝐒𝐮𝐬 asked her why she was heading to the baths, and Toru nervously claimed she was looking for a towel for Izuku. 𝐒𝐮𝐬 offered to check for towels, and as he went to the bathroom, Toru sighed, feeling close yet so far from her goal, while Rias and the others comforted her. 𝐒𝐮𝐬 entered the bathroom just as Izuku opened the door. Izuku asked 𝐒𝐮𝐬 about the urgent matter that had led to his 3-day absence. 𝐒𝐮𝐬 assured him they would discuss it shortly, as lunch was ready. Izuku nodded, quickly dressed, and followed 𝐒𝐮𝐬 downstairs. During lunch, Izuku noticed it was just him and 𝐒𝐮𝐬 on the couch. He pressed 𝐒𝐮𝐬 for details about the urgent business that warranted his time off. 𝐒𝐮𝐬 revealed that it had all been a ruse. They were going to train together until the sports festival. He noted that since Izuku had already completed his assignments, they could begin their training immediately. Izuku attempted to escape, but as soon as he reached for the door, he was met with a jolt of electricity. 𝐒𝐮𝐬 reminded him that they had already put measures in place to prevent any escape. Rias and the others appeared around him, and Toru bowed, apologizing as Izuku's face turned pale. He protested, knowing that the next 3 days would be challenging. 3 days later, the sports festival was in full swing. Kirishima asked if anyone had seen Izuku, to which Ochako replied that he would surely show up soon. Just then, Izuku arrived in his PE uniform, sporting scratches and bruises. Denki remarked on his appearance, suggesting he looked like he had fought a wild beast. Izuku explained that his family had decided to train him intensively for 3 days, leaving everyone curious about the nature of his training. President Mike announced that it was time for the next class to enter the stage, and the excitement of the crowd was palpable. Izuku urged his classmates to move forward as they made their way to the center of the field. President Mike introduced their teacher, Eraserhead, who simply expressed his longing to get things started quickly. Midnight then took the stage, dressed in her hero suit, capturing the attention of the audience. She greeted everyone and revealed a giant wheel that would determine the first event. As she spun it, it landed on an obstacle race. President Mike explained the rules. Every student would have to run a lap around the stadium while avoiding various obstacles. 𝐒𝐬𝐬, uninterested, stated he wanted to take a nap, which earned him some sweat drops from Class 1A. As the students prepared, Izuku felt a surge of determination. He closed his eyes, ready to showcase his strength. Drake noted that Izuku's dragon BLD was awakening, and Issei agreed that it would be interesting, especially with Toru present. Rias assured everyone that Izuku would be fine thanks to their training, but she had set up a barrier just in case. As the event began, Izuku opened his eyes and surged forward, the ground cracking beneath him as he propelled himself ahead. The crowd gasped at his speed. Present Mike speculated about the nature of Izuku's training, while 𝐒𝐬𝐬, still in his sleeping bag, told him to be quiet. Izuku faced the first obstacle, a series of zero-pointers from the entrance exam. He dodged their attacks with ease, climbing onto one of their arms and delivering a powerful blow to its head, causing it to collapse. He jumped off and continued running, leaving the other students struggling to catch up. Present Mike cheered for Izuku's determination as he approached the next challenge, a series of stone pillars connected by tightropes. Izuku ran across them effortlessly, much to the astonishment of the crowd and his classmates. Denki wondered how he could be so fast and strong, while Kirishima speculated that it must have been due to his intense training. As Shoto attempted to catch up, he froze the ground beneath him, but Izuku was already advancing through the third obstacle, a minefield. Present Mike expressed disbelief at how Izuku seemed to know where the mines were located. Izuku crossed the finish line first, and Midnight announced him as the winner of the first event, prompting cheers from the crowd. He took a moment to catch his breath while waiting for the others to arrive. Once they did, his classmates surrounded him, curious about his performance. Izuku credited his brother's training for his success but mentioned he had something else to attend to. He approached Momo and dealt with Mineta, who had been bothering her. Momo thanked him, and Izuku nodded in acknowledgement. Midnight then announced the next event, a cavalry battle with 1,000,000 points at stake for the first-place winner. The crowd looked at Izuku, who simply smiled and declared he was ready for the challenge. Izuku's team had triumphed in the second event of the sports festival with remarkable ease, and excitement filled the air as Midnight stepped forward to announce the next challenge. She declared that it was time for the final event, the one-on-one battles. A large board illuminated overhead, displaying the matchups, and the tension escalated as Izuku found himself pitted against a boy named Shinso. As the crowd murmured, Ojiro raised his left hand, a mix of confusion and contemplation on his face. He expressed his intention to withdraw from the final event, perplexed by how he had even reached this stage. Midnight, sensing his distress, nodded in understanding and allowed him to step down from the competition, the other spectators respecting his choice. With Ojiro out of the running, the atmosphere shifted. Anticipation heightened as Izuku made his way toward the arena. Present Mike announced Izuku as the champion of the first two events, and his opponent, Hitoshi Shinso, hailing from General Studies. The audience erupted with cheers, but amidst the roar, a distinct sound echoed through the arena as 𝐒𝐬𝐬 smacked the back of Present Mike's head. Midnight stood poised in the center of the ring, her WHP held high, radiating anticipation. She called for both fighters to be ready and unleashed her WHP, signaling the start of the duel. The atmosphere was electric, charged with the promise of an intense battle ahead. Shinso stood in the center of the ring, locking his gaze on Izuku, who wore a look of curiosity. He expressed surprise at discovering their familial connection, and Shinso, shifting uncomfortably, admitted that it had been a secret his father wanted to keep. Izuku, intrigued, acknowledged the challenges Shinso had faced, and Shinso activated his quirk, a subtle wave of energy pulsing in the air around him. Shinso commanded Izuku to step out of the ring, but Izuku playfully challenged him, remaining rooted to the spot. Shinso was bewildered to find that his quirk had no effect on Izuku. Izuku casually explained that he had trained to resist mind attacks, and with a confident grin, he suggested they talk later. In an instant, Izuku surged forward, his speed almost a blur as he lunged at Shinso. He seized Shinso's arm and flipped him over his shoulder, sending him soaring out of the ring. The crowd erupted into cheers, their excitement resonating throughout the arena as Midnight announced Izuku's victory in the first round. With determination shining in his eyes, he strode confidently over to Midnight, extending his right hand toward her. She promptly handed him the microphone, eager anticipation rippling through the crowd. Izuku took a moment to gather his thoughts before addressing the audience, his voice steady yet passionate. He delivered a powerful message about the importance of not underestimating Shinso and questioned the right of others to label quirks as villainous. He highlighted the hypocrisy of those who claimed to promote acceptance while turning their backs on others based on their quirks or appearances. He urged the audience to reflect before passing judgment. He continued, emphasizing that Shinso's quirk allowed him to control others through conversation, and he chose to use this power for good. Izuku painted a scenario where Shinso could safely resolve a hostage situation, showcasing the potential of his quirk for heroism. He concluded by challenging the audience to think critically, referencing Nizu's acceptance of Shinso into the school. As he handed back the microphone, the audience fell into stunned silence. At that moment, Issei, sitting in the front row, stood up and broke the tension with applause. One by one, his family joined in, their cheers echoing through the arena. Soon, the sound of clapping spread like wildfire, as more and more people stood to cheer for Izuku, their spirits lifted by his impassioned defense of Shinso. After a few intense minutes, the atmosphere settled into its usual rhythm, and the remaining battles proceeded without further interruptions. Izuku Midoriya slowly approached where his classmates were seated, finding a spot amidst the energetic chatter and spirited discussions about the matches. He sank into his seat, trying to relax, and closed his eyes, leaning back against the cool metal of the bleachers. Ochako Uraraka's curious voice cut through the ambient noise, asking if he wasn't going to watch the matches. Izuku replied that he felt no need for that. Izuku felt confident about the outcome of the ongoing battles, a small smile on his lips as he began to predict the results. Kirishima, filled with excitement, glanced at Izuku, clearly intrigued by his certainty. Izuku playfully kept his reasoning a secret just as the next match began. Todoroki vs. 𝐒𝐮𝐬. As Midnight cracked her distinctive WHP to signal the start, the tension in the air heightened. With a swift and calculated move, Todoroki encased 𝐒𝐮𝐬 in an icy grip, decisively winning the match. Izuku, satisfied with his earlier predictions, drifted off to a light nap. As the rounds continued, the atmosphere shifted when Monoma began to boast loudly. However, his arrogance was quickly silenced when Izuku appeared in front of him, delivering a sharp punch that knocked Monoma out cold. The surrounding students erupted in cheers, and Izuku returned to his seat with a self-satisfied grin. Todoroki's unexpected voice caught Izuku off guard as he approached. He asked if they could speak somewhere more private, prompting Izuku to nod as they moved to a secluded corner away from prying eyes. Izuku settled into a relaxed stance and inquired about Todoroki's intentions. Todoroki stated flatly that he intended to beat Izuku, his determination clear. Izuku raised an eyebrow, urging him to elaborate. After a moment of hesitation, Todoroki began to share the details of his struggles, revealing his longing to prove to his father that he could succeed without relying on his quirk. Izuku bluntly responded that Todoroki had wasted both their time, watching as frustration crossed Todoroki's face. Todoroki shot back, demanding to know what Izuku meant, but Izuku simply told him to figure it out for himself. He expressed sympathy for Todoroki's tough childhood, adding that his own experiences had been even more challenging, before walking away, leaving Todoroki bewildered and contemplative. As the quarterfinals approached, it was finally Izuku's turn to compete again. He stood up, stretching to shake off any residual fatigue, and let out a big yawn. Their classmates cheered, wishing good luck to both competitors. Izuku smiled in appreciation while Todoroki remained stoic. As Izuku walked toward the ring, he encountered an obstruction. Endeavor, with an imposing presence, blocked his path. Izuku coldly asked what Endeavor wanted, and Endeavor dismissed him, stating that there was no way he could beat Shoto, who was destined to surpass All Might. Endeavor advised Izuku to give up for his own sake and brushed past him with an air of superiority. Fury ignited within Izuku, and he could no longer contain himself. Clenching his right fist, he delivered a powerful punch to 𝐒𝐻𝐬, causing him to crash to his knees, howling in pain. But Izuku wasn't finished. With fierce determination, he pulled back his left arm and struck 𝐒𝐻𝐬's face, driving him hard into the wall, which cracked under the force. Izuku, feeling empowered, declared his disdain for 𝐒𝐻𝐬 before reaching for his phone to call 𝐒𝐮𝐬, humorously saved in his contacts as Rat God. He asked 𝐒𝐮𝐬 to send a bot to clean up the mess he had made at the ring's entrance, and 𝐒𝐮𝐬 assured him it wouldn't be a problem. As the tension in the arena built, the moment arrived. The crowd erupted into cheers as Izuku Midoriya stepped into the illuminated ring. Under the dazzling lights, he squared his shoulders and took a deep breath, ready to face the challenge ahead. Across from him stood Midnight, her formidable presence commanding attention as she raised her WT high above her head. The anticipation crackled in the air as she announced the start of the quarterfinals. The match erupted into action as Shoto Todoroki wasted no time, unleashing a powerful wave of ice that spread across the ground. The air grew noticeably colder, an ominous chill settling over the arena. In a breathtaking display of his quirk, icy tendrils crept toward Izuku, wrapping around him and encasing him in frost. Present Mick's voice boomed through the arena, playfully taunting that it might be over already. Just as Midnight prepared to declare the match, an unexpected sound broke through the tension. The ice began to crack. Gasps echoed from the audience, and incredulous looks spread among the spectators. In the stands, Issei smiled confidently, knowing his brother was far from finished. Determined, Izuku broke free from the icy prison, shards of ice flying in all directions as he unleashed a powerful burst of energy. He smirked as he emerged victorious from the icy grip, and the crowd erupted into cheers, excitement flooding the arena. Present Mike shouted about Izuku's incredible turnaround, capturing everyone's attention and igniting newfound energy among the spectators. Meanwhile, Shota Aizawa remained fixated on the ring below, pondering Izuku's next move. He was acutely aware that Izuku could end the fight at any moment. The tension in the air was electric, setting the stage for the thrilling showdown ahead. Shoto steeled himself, summoning his quirk once more as he unleashed another wave of ice toward Izuku. The icy blast surged forward with chilling precision, but Izuku, anticipating the attack, deftly sidestepped to the left, narrowly evading the freezing onslaught. Seizing the moment, he sprinted straight toward Shoto, determination radiating from every step. Undeterred, Shoto instinctively conjured another wave of ice, aiming to halt Izuku's relentless advance. However, Izuku's speed proved too great, and he instantly closed the distance between them. With a fierce battle cry, Izuku drew back his arm and moved his fist forward, landing a solid punch into Shoto's stomach. The impact was staggering, driving the air from Shoto's lungs and sending him sprawling backward, crashing into the ground with a thud. Izuku urged him to stop playing around and show what he had, his voice a mix of challenge and excitement as he approached Shoto, who was still reeling from the blow. Though in pain, Shoto quickly regained his composure and summoned the strength to launch another ice attack, desperation flashing in his eyes. Izuku, anticipating the move, reared his fist again, drawing upon his strength. As Shoto's ice extended ominously toward him, Izuku didn't hesitate. He threw a punch, and the two forces collided in a dramatic clash. The air pressure generated by the impact rippled outward, creating a shockwave that spread throughout the entire area, shaking the ground beneath them and reflecting the intensity of their battle. The clash resulted in an eruption of ice shards and fragments, painting the scene in a flurry of white and blue, a testament to the fierce competition between the two young heroes. Shoto's eyes widened in disbelief as he struggled to comprehend the immense power emanating from Izuku. He gasped, wondering how Izuku could be this strong. Voice a mixture of shock and admiration. Izuku, undeterred, stood his ground, his expression fierce and determined. He asserted that what mattered was for Shoto to stand and fight him with everything he had, wanting to win this battle and pouring out everything he had like the others. Holding back now would insult all of them who had fought so hard. With a burst of speed, Izuku dashed forward, closing the distance between them instantly. He delivered a powerful kick to Shoto's face, the force of the blow sending Shoto hurtling backward, teetering on the edge of the ring as he flailed to regain his balance. But Izuku wasn't finished. He sprinted after Shoto, his focus unwavering. As Shoto attempted to catch his breath, Izuku seized his ankle with a firm grip, swiftly yanking him back into the arena. The impact was deafening, a resounding thud reverberating throughout the space, leaving Shoto gasping as he hit the ground. The moment's intensity hung heavy in the air, a stark reminder of the stakes they were fighting for. Izuku declared that it wasn't over until Shoto gave it everything he had, his voice firm as he took a few steps back from Shoto. He crouched, focusing his energy and casting a healing spell over him. Slowly, he could feel the tension and pain radiating from Shoto's body dissipating, the warmth of his magic enveloping Shoto like a gentle embrace. Rising to his feet, Izuku looked directly at Shoto, his expression a mix of concern and determination. He questioned why Shoto was so eager for him to unleash his flames, suspecting that someone had put him up to this. Shoto's eyes narrowed, suspicion lacing his expression as he confronted Izuku, the flicker of his elemental powers barely contained within him. Izuku rose with a determined look as he signaled Shoto to resume their match. Just as Shoto gathered his energy to summon his quirk, aiming to encase the area in ice, Izuku was already on the move. With incredible speed, he closed the distance between them and seized Shoto's left arm, halting him in his tracks. With a swift motion, Izuku delivered a powerful uppercut, the force of which launched Shoto into the air, his body momentarily suspended against the backdrop of the arena. Time seemed to slow as Shoto's form twisted before gravity pulled him down. He landed with a thud on the ground, the impact resonating through the battlefield. But Izuku wasn't about to leave him lying there. As the echoes of the match filled the air, he focused his energy and channeled his healing magic toward Shoto. A warm glow surrounded Shoto's body, mending any injuries sustained in the exchange. This sequence continued for several moments, transforming the sparring match into a display of combat and camaraderie, as Izuku balanced their competitive spirit with genuine care. A palpable sense of confusion filled the air as the crowd in the stands buzzed with anticipation. Spectators exchanged glances and whispered among themselves, perplexed by Izuku Midoriya's apparent reluctance to finish his fight against Shoto Todoroki. Izuku possessed the strength and skill to secure an easy victory from what they had seen. However, amid their speculation, one group stood apart, Izuku's family. They alone held the key to understanding the deeper motivations behind his actions. Izuku's gaze was not merely focused on the competition, it was filled with empathy and recognition as he looked at Shoto. To him, Shoto embodied a younger version of himself, a reflection of the struggles he once faced. Izuku understood that beneath Shoto's powerful quirk lay a turmoil keeping him from fully embracing his abilities. It was as if Izuku felt a strong urge to help him break free from the invisible chains that bound him, burdens stemming from his family and past experiences. Izuku realized that for Shoto to unlock his potential and use his quirk willingly, he needed to confront his inner demons. This was not just about winning or losing, it was about connection, understanding, and the hope that Shoto could find the strength to overcome his personal battles. In that moment, Izuku fought for both himself and Shoto's liberation, believing he could guide Shoto toward embracing his identity and power through compassion and support. Amidst the tense atmosphere, a prominent pro-hero suddenly rose from his seat, his voice cutting through the chaos. He exclaimed that enough was enough, filled with urgency and frustration. He questioned how long they would allow this torment to continue. His words resonated throughout the hall, prompting a wave of murmurs in agreement from the spectators in the stands. As the pro-hero's declaration echoed, the crowd began to rally behind him, their emotions boiling over. People shouted disparaging names at Izuku, labeling him a villain and a bully, among other accusations. The once orderly environment transformed into a cacophony of outrage, the collective voices reflecting a deep-seated anger and a longing for justice. The weight of the situation settled heavily on Izuku, who found himself at the center of a storm fueled by fervor and misunderstanding. Izuku's family and classmates were increasingly frustrated, urging the noisy crowd to settle down. Toru's anger boiled at the hurtful words directed toward Izuku, her thoughts spiraling into dark fantasies of retribution against those who dared to speak so cruelly. Just as Aizawa prepared to intervene, Izuku tapped into the depths of his draconic aura. With an intensity that resonated in the atmosphere, he bellowed at the top of his lungs, declaring that the matter did not concern anyone else and that they should leave. His voice echoed through the arena like thunder, instantly silencing the crowd. The weight of his words created an eerie stillness. Izuku sighed in relief, feeling a sense of peace wash over him. He glanced at Shoto, who had managed to regain his footing after facing yet another challenge. The significance of his words lingered in the air, stirring a memory within Shoto that had initially inspired him to become a hero. He pondered why individuals aspired to be heroes if they behaved in such a manner. Momentarily lost in thought, Shoto contemplated Izuku's question, the truth resonating within him. He eventually acknowledged Izuku's point, his brow furrowing as he raised his arm, initially misinterpreted by Izuku as a sign of aggression. Tensing in anticipation of an attack, Izuku prepared to defend himself. However, Shoto surprised him by swinging his arm backward before delivering a powerful punch to his own face, the impact resonating in the quiet and highlighting his inner conflict and frustration. Shoto proclaimed with determination that he had disrespected all those who had fought tirelessly to be present, and that was precisely why he was committed to giving everything he had in battle. He had come to be a hero. As he spoke those words, the imaginary chains that had bound him for so long shattered dramatically, bursting into a myriad of sparkling fragments. The air crackled with energy as the icy remnants began to melt away, revealing the brilliance of his power. Flames erupted from the right side of his body, radiating heat and intensity as he embraced the duality of his abilities. Izuku watched with a proud smirk, excitement coursing through him. He felt a fierce glint in his eyes, ready to finish the fight. In that moment, his sacred gear materialized on his arm, shimmering with power as it charged up, prepared to unleash its ultimate blow. Fueled by fiery resolve, Shoto prepared to unleash an inferno, both fighters igniting their ultimate capabilities in perfect synchrony. Issei let out a low whistle, his eyes gleaming with excitement, noting that things were getting interesting but that it was time for them to step in. He turned to Akino, who met his gaze with a knowing nod. She vanished instantly, reappearing at the side of Midnight and Cementos, who looked poised to intervene in the escalating situation. Akino reassured them confidently, her voice calm yet firm. Meanwhile, Izuku charged at Shoto, his expression wild and determined, a fierce fire igniting in his eyes. As adrenaline surged through him, Shoto paused momentarily to silently acknowledge his friend's bravery. In that critical moment, Shoto unleashed a torrent of flames that arced through the air with menacing speed. The intense heat scorched the ground around him as he prepared to counter Izuku's advance. Akino, sensing the impending chaos, manifested a barrier just in time to shield the audience and the two combatants. When Izuku collided with Shoto's flames, a shockwave rippled through the arena, causing the barrier to tremble under the force of the attack. The explosion was monumental, sending a cloud of debris and smoke billowing outward, enveloping the arena in a dense mist. Everything seemed to hang in the air for a heartbeat as the spectators gasped in shock and awe. Akino, with a flick of her wrist, dispersed the barrier, allowing the smoke to begin clearing. As the haze lifted, Izuku emerged, standing defiantly with his fist raised high in a gesture of triumph. His clothes were tattered and charred from the encounter, revealing a toned physique that caught the audience's attention. Gasps of surprise escaped the lips of the female spectators, a deep blush spreading across their faces, except for his family, who looked on with pride and concern. Midnight announced the winner, her voice slightly shaky as she attempted to regain her composure, feeling flustered at the sight of him. The arena fell into a hushed silence for a moment, taking in his victory, before erupting into a symphony of cheers, the crowd celebrating the spirit and determination that Izuku had shown in the face of adversity. Soon, the vibrant sports festival drew to an exhilarating close. The event organizers carefully handed out shiny medals to the top 3 competitors as the clock struck midnight. Izuku stood on the highest podium, proudly crowned the champion of the entire festival. He could hardly believe he was in this triumphant position when the golden medal was gently placed around his neck. His heart swelled with pride as he looked out into the crowd, noticing his family cheering loudly and smiling brightly, their faces glowing with joy and pride. Nizu then gracefully arrived on top of Aizawa's shoulder, balancing carefully to avoid disturbing him. He addressed the students and staff, hoping they had learned something valuable during the sports festival. Nizu encouraged the crowd to give the participants a well-deserved round of applause for their outstanding performance. Turning to the students, he declared that to properly conclude the event, everyone should shout together as a display of unity and school spirit. After the excitement of the sports festival finally subsided, Izuku and his friends gathered at home to celebrate their accomplishments. Miki, smiling warmly, looked at Izuku with pride and expressed how proud she was of him. Izuku, blushing slightly, responded that he didn't think he would have won without Issei and the others' dedicated training sessions. Issei, grinning confidently, chimed in that he was right and added that he enjoyed how Izuku silenced the loudmouths in the stands during the event. Rias playfully smacked him on the head and calmly told him to behave. Issei pouted but obeyed. Rias nodded appreciatively and added that it was also all Izuku, his persistence in training and unwavering determination, that allowed him to reach this point. Izuku agreed, noting that they had a few days off and he planned to take it easy for a bit, a gentle smile spreading across his face as he relaxed his shoulders. They continued their celebration throughout the lively night, filled with laughter, music, and the aroma of delicious snacks until dawn illuminated the room. Izuku was still sleeping peacefully in his cozy bed, covered with a warm blanket, but was soon woken up by the urgent call of nature, prompting him to get up swiftly. He stretched briefly before heading to the nearby restroom, the faint humming from the vents still echoing in his ears. Once he felt relieved, he carefully washed his hands in the cool, clear water, feeling refreshed. He then made his way to the small but inviting kitchen, where sunlight streamed through the window, casting gentle patterns on the countertop. Upon arriving at the cozy kitchen, Izuku immediately noticed that Toru was the only one preparing breakfast on the stove. Toru greeted him warmly, her gentle smile brightening her face, and he returned the greeting with a hint of curiosity, asking where the others were. Toru paused for a moment, recalling that they all had urgent matters to attend to and would be gone for a few days. Izuku nodded, a slight smile on his face, expressing his appreciation for her company, which caused Toru to blush faintly and avert her gaze. Feeling a surge of fondness, Izuku couldn't resist teasing her, shaking his head to distract himself from his unexpected feelings. Toru then warmly offered to prepare his breakfast, and as Izuku watched her with an entranced gaze, he observed her graceful movements around the kitchen. A tumult of conflicting feelings surged within him, and an inner voice urged him to maintain control. Toru carefully placed a steaming breakfast plate atop the table, her bright smile easing some of his tension. Just then, the doorbell rang, interrupting the quiet moment. Toru excused herself and hurried to answer it. She returned moments later with Ochako, Jiro, and Midnight, their presence filling the room with a familiar warmth. Midnight casually explained that they had forgotten to hand him something earlier and decided to bring it to him since his friends were already heading there. As their scent wafted into Izuku's nose, he felt a deeper wave of emotion intensify within him, struggling to maintain his composure as the pressure mounted. He managed to thank them, though his voice trembled slightly. Izuku looked pale and somewhat exhausted, his brow furrowed in discomfort. Jiro expressed her concern, gently placing a hand on his shoulder and asking if he was all right. Izuku admitted he was still recovering from his fight with Shoto, his voice trembling slightly, as Toru leaned her head against his chest for comfort. Toru noticed the slight flush on Izuku's cheeks, which seemed to be his breaking point. Suddenly, he straightened up, his expression determined. Toru's eyes searched his face, and without warning, he took her arm, bringing her closer and leaning in for a gentle kiss, catching her completely by surprise, along with the others as shock rippled through the group. Despite the surprise, she accepted it, gently wrapping her hands around his neck, pulling him closer. This moment marked only the beginning of something more profound. A thin strand of energy lingered between them as their lips parted briefly. Suddenly, Izuku raised his arm and declared, domain. Upon his command, a vivid, emerald-green aura erupted from his body, spreading throughout the house in shimmering waves. The women turned to look at Izuku, whose eyes now glinted with a fierce determination. It was evident that both women were slightly taken aback by this display of power, their cheeks flushing faintly. Izuku expressed his regret, stating that he could no longer hold back. He leaned in and kissed Toru, who was initially surprised but soon embraced the moment, wrapping her arms around his neck and deepening the kiss. As the atmosphere grew charged, Toru began to remove her maid uniform, revealing her toned figure. Izuku, captivated by her confidence, quickly cleared the table and laid her back on it. The intensity of the moment heightened as Toru responded to Izuku's assertiveness, their connection deepening. Izuku then paused, the only thing connecting them a thin thread of energy. He focused on the bond they shared, feeling the warmth of their connection. The air around them was charged with an intoxicating energy, affecting those nearby, who found themselves drawn into the moment, their senses heightened. Izuku's determination shone through as he continued to explore the depths of their connection, cherishing the bond they were forming. Midnight playfully challenged Izuku to show his strength. With determination, he lunged forward, engaging in a passionate embrace. As they moved together, Midnight wrapped her legs around him, enjoying the closeness. Izuku was captivated by her softness, feeling a rush of excitement as they continued to explore their connection. Midnight expressed her pleasure, encouraging him as he skillfully navigated their rhythm. In a swift motion, Izuku turned her around, appreciating the way she moved with him. He playfully tapped her back, eliciting a mix of reactions from her that blended both surprise and delight. The energy between them intensified as they continued to share this exhilarating moment, with Midnight urging him to be more adventurous. She relished the playful teasing, fully immersed in the experience they were creating together. Izuku leaned down and shared a gentle kiss with Midnight, their connection deepening as they embraced. Both Midnight and Izuku felt the intensity of the moment, reaching a peak of emotion. As they shared this experience, Izuku playfully bit down on her shoulder, a gesture that echoed a previous encounter. Once they were finished, Izuku turned his attention to Ochako, lifting her effortlessly and drawing her close, causing her to gasp in surprise. He positioned himself in front of her, ready to continue their shared journey. Ochako felt a mix of anticipation and hesitation, expressing her sensitivity, but Izuku, caught up in the moment, kissed her deeply and moved forward, igniting a wave of sensations that overwhelmed her. As he continued, Ochako found herself lost in the pleasure, her body responding to the rhythm of their connection. Izuku laid her back on the sofa, captivated by the way she moved with him, her reactions filling the air with a melody of delight. As the moments passed, Izuku felt himself nearing another 𝐒𝐮𝐬𝐽𝐬, whispering promises of connection and belonging to Ochako. With one final surge, he embraced her completely, marking their bond in a way that felt profound. Next, Izuku approached Jiro, who was shyly trying to cover herself, looking away as she expressed her insecurities. He reassured her, emphasizing that her worth was not defined by appearances. As he drew closer, he shared a tender kiss with her, their connection deepening as they explored this new chapter together. Jiro's reactions were filled with surprise and pleasure, and as they shared this moment, Izuku felt a sense of fulfillment. Afterward, he looked at the others, who were still recovering from their experiences. He expressed his eagerness to continue their journey together, feeling a sense of excitement for what lay ahead. As the sun rose, its warm glow filled Izuku's room. He shifted slightly, only to find himself nestled between soft forms. Confused, he reached out, thinking they were pillows, but quickly realized they were not. Startled, he opened his eyes to see Midnight nearby, who greeted him with a smile, teasing him about the previous night. Izuku felt a rush of embarrassment as he noticed the others, Ochako, Jiro, and Toru, also resting comfortably. They exchanged sleepy greetings, and Jiro playfully remarked on his usual demeanor. Izuku, feeling a bit flustered, asked if they would cover themselves, aware of the situation's awkwardness. Toru responded with a light-hearted comment about their recent activities, adding to the atmosphere of camaraderie. Just then, the door creaked open, revealing 𝐒𝐬𝐽, who looked at the group with curiosity. Sensing the tension, she quickly dismissed it and excitedly mentioned the need to prepare food, shifting the focus back to their shared experiences. Later, as they enjoyed a variety of delicious foods, Ochako and the others ventured out for new clothes. Meanwhile, Toru used her magic to conjure a fresh outfit. Izuku relaxed on the sofa, listening as Issei explained the significance of their connections. Izuku pondered aloud about the implications of their bond, prompting a mix of reactions from the others, who felt a blend of embarrassment and amusement. Issei clarified the situation, hinting at the changes that would come as they all began to live together, ensuring that they would not be a burden. Mickey chimed in, reassuring them about their new home just a few blocks away, setting the stage for their future adventures together. Izuku was surprised to learn that Goru would be moving in with him. Goru explained that since the girls were marked as his, they needed to be together, emphasizing the importance of responsibility. Issei approached Izuku with a playful expression, but before he could finish his teasing remark, Nikke intervened, instructing them to gather their belongings later, as there was much to discuss. With that, Nikke and Issei left, leaving the girls feeling content in the quiet house. Izuku turned to the group of girls, bowing his head in a sincere gesture of apology. He expressed his regret for his previous actions, acknowledging that he had crossed a line and was open to any feelings of anger they might have towards him. After a moment of silence, he looked up to see their neutral expressions. Toru confidently stated that she had no issues with what had happened, and Midnight agreed while sipping her coffee. Ochako added that she and Jiro felt the same, explaining that their feelings for him had grown since he had rescued them and treated them with kindness. Jiro chuckled, hinting that Mino would likely be jealous when she found out. Izuku was taken aback by their responses and stood up, contemplating how things would progress from there. Midnight suggested they take it one step at a time and handed him a sealed envelope, revealing it contained tickets to 𝐼. Overwhelmed with joy, Izuku impulsively kissed Midnight on the lips, quickly apologizing and blushing. Midnight, with a warm smile, suggested they celebrate later. Toru, feeling playful, stepped closer to Izuku, teasingly indicating that she also wanted to be close to him. Midnight mentioned she needed to pack, and Ochako suddenly remembered they needed to inform their parents about their plans. Jiro agreed, and they turned to Izuku, who was visibly anxious about the situation. He muttered to himself, realizing the seriousness of their predicament. Izuku found himself aboard a sleek, silver airplane heading to 𝐼 for the upcoming expo. He was relieved to be avoiding the confrontation with Ochako and Jiro's parents. Issei, who accompanied him on the plane, reminded him that he would eventually need to meet them. Izuku leaned back in his seat, contemplating the expo and expressing his curiosity about it. Issei shared his excitement, and Izuku explained that many important people would be attending, including investors and industry experts. He mentioned that Melissa would be their guide. Izuku reminisced about how David and Melissa had treated him kindly despite his quirkless status. As they approached the island, he pointed out the view from the window. The pilot announced their descent, and soon the plane landed smoothly. After gathering their belongings, Issei expressed his enjoyment of the private jet experience, to which Izuku agreed, playfully rolling his eyes. Suddenly, a familiar voice called out to him. He turned to see a girl with long blonde hair and fashionable glasses approaching on a colorful pogo stick. As she got closer, she hopped off and rushed toward Izuku, who opened his arms for a hug. An older man with neatly combed brown hair gently reminded her to take it easy. Melissa, excited to see Izuku, stepped back with a bright smile. David warmly greeted Izuku and introduced himself, expressing gratitude for Izuku's care. Izuku introduced his brother, Issei, who received a friendly handshake from David. David suggested giving them a quick tour of the venue, but his phone rang unexpectedly. After checking the screen, he informed them of a change in plans due to an important meeting. Melissa reassured her father that she would show Izuku and Issei around, and David departed, leaving them to explore the venue together. Melissa smiled warmly, knowing the perfect first place for them to start their adventure. Meanwhile, a small airplane landed smoothly on the makeshift runway of the remote island. A group of men disembarked swiftly, their footsteps crunching on the gravel. Among them was a man wearing a metallic iron mask who stepped forward and pulled out a small, battered device resembling a radio. He dialed a number and spoke into the receiver with a low, clipped voice, announcing their arrival and asking for further instructions. A voice crackled through the receiver, providing detailed directions before disconnecting. The man nodded, glancing at his companions, and ordered them to prepare for the night ahead. They moved purposefully in the direction specified by the voice on the phone, their expressions focused and determined. Elsewhere, Melissa enthusiastically guided Izuku and Issei through the bustling island, showcasing the array of cutting-edge support equipment developed specifically for hero use. This included high-fidelity headsets with noise-canceling features, durable exosuits with enhanced mobility, and sophisticated diagnostic stations capable of real-time health monitoring. Issei expressed his admiration, asking if Melissa had helped design or build any of the equipment. She replied that she had not yet contributed directly, but she was eager to learn. Izuku nodded encouragingly, smiling warmly at her. A familiar voice interrupted their conversation, and Izuku recognized it, feeling a rush of warmth as he caught his breath. Ochako greeted him with a warm smile, her eyes sparkling with amusement. Izuku felt a mix of nervousness and excitement as he glanced at Issei, who smiled knowingly at the scene. Ochako playfully remarked on Izuku's apparent enjoyment, and Momo joined in, standing slightly behind Jiro, who nodded in agreement. Jiro added with a playful grin that she had heard everything, her eyes twinkling mischievously. Seeking support, Izuku looked toward Issei, but Issei simply raised his hand in a peace sign and stepped back cautiously, prompting Izuku to mutter under his breath about his friend's betrayal.